Gamesa Türkiye CEO'su Sayın Ebru Çiçekliurt,
Ebru Çiçekliurt
Nordex
from
Aksiyona
Gamesa,
Avrupa CEO'su Sayın
Nordex
İbrahim
Aksiyona Europe
Özarslan,
CEO İbrahim
Enerko Merkez
Özarslan,
Asya, Orta
Enerko
Doğu ve Afrika Bölgesi
Central
CEO'su Sayın Arif Günyar,
Middle East and
Vestas Türkiye
Africa
Genel
CEO
Müdürü
Arif
Sayın
Günyar,
Levent
Vestas
İshak
Turkey
ve Aselsan
General
Genel
Director
Müdür
Levent İshak,
Yardımcısı Profesör
and
Doktor Sayın
Aselsan
Mehmet
Deputy
Çelik.
General
Buyurunuz
Manager
lütfen.
Professor Dr. Mehmet Çelik were kindly invited to the stage.
Değerli katılımcılar,
Esteemed
enerji
participants
sektörünün, rüzgar enerji sektörünün çok kıymetli temsilcileri,
and distinguished representatives of the wind energy industry, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to welcome you. This is Sebahattin Öz. I am the Deputy General Director of Energy Affairs. In this panel, we will discuss about the developing wind turbines and the development expectations in the Turkish market. First of all, I would like to thank you all for your participation.
biraz önce arkadaşımızla konuşurken
As I was discussing with my colleague earlier on,
hakikaten bizim için çok önemli.
we were discussing about the planning. It is highly important to us. In every meeting, in every session, it is mentioned the public
Ne yapacağını açıklasın ki sektör
should
kendini
disclose what to do and when to do so that the industry will be able to plan itself accordingly. This sounds very nice and that is the case it should be.
en geç evvelsi gün hazırlanmış program
The schedule was prepared yesterday and we made this schedule all together. In this one,
oturumun süresi kadar kayma yaşıyoruz. 1,5 saat.
there is now a delay of 1.5 hours.
2023 için
So
20.000 megawatt kapasiteye ulaşmayı hedef koydu ama işte 12.000.
the public has set an objective of achieving 20,000 megawatts by 2023, and if we achieve 15,000 megawatts, please be okay with that. So we have to accept it. We have a plan, we are making our plans, and we always submit them to you, and the ministers also disclosed what we are planning to do. So in line with those plans, we will be discussing with the representatives of significant companies in our country. I would like to introduce them briefly. On my right, we have our only female participants, Siemens Gamesa Turkey CEO İbrahim Özarslan, Nordex Aksiyona Europe CEO, Arif Günyar, Enerko CEO for Middle East and Africa, Levent İshak from Vestas, the General Director, and Professor Dr. Mehmet Çelik, General Director of Aselsan. If you may allow me, I would like to give the floor to Professor Dr. Mehmet Çelik first, and we would like to hear about the plans of Aselsan with respect to wind turbines. Esteemed General Manager and distinguished participants and panelists, esteemed industrialists, investors, and dear audience, I would like to greet you all respectfully. Hopefully, in this session, I will be offering you some informative information. If you allow me, I would like to tell you about the policy of Aselsan with respect to wind energy, and I would like to make a presentation.
Ülkemizin en büyük dünyanın 49. büyük savunma sanayi şirketi olan Aselsan,
Aselsan is the largest defense company in our country, and it is the 49th largest defense company across the world. And in terms of military technology, it is the very first name that comes to mind. And also, in terms of civil technology, we are serving our country again. Accordingly, the technological knowledge that we learn in defense is also transformed to the healthcare, automation, electronic, and other industries of our countries. Aselsan works in the field of renewable energy to the city safety, electric vehicles to the medical imaging technologies. Nearly half an hour ago, KABA made an announcement. I would like to share the CAP announcement for you as well. Aselsan has signed a contract for electric train, which is 45 million euros, and hopefully we will see the trains on the rails in 2 months, and it will be followed by the speed train. And we will be manufacturing the train control system, the transformers and power units, and almost all the electronic and digital scope of the train were developed by Aselsan, and we have completed them in 3 train sets, and the Ministry of Transportation is also declaring that on the media nowadays. As for the energy systems, what structure do we have? I would like to attract your attention to this organization chart. Aselsan is the leading company, and this year it started the Directorate of Energy Systems, and we work with the system design, production, integration, test, operation, integrated logistics, and among the fields of operation are wind turbines, generators, solar systems, SCADA systems, smart network management, and storage systems. I would like to emphasize the fact that when we first started, it was not only our purpose to bring together the system elements, but also Aselsan was supposed to make unique designs not only on onshore but also offshore, as well as the direct drive. In the energy field between 2016 and 2022, Aselsan manufactured SCADA systems, and the network connection algorithms were developed, and they were commercially commissioned. They are now used in NUSCA. And with the knowledge that we have gained in this project, we started the power converter unit, and we manufactured asynchronous power converter, and the prototypes have been manufactured. And in order to achieve the first megawatt project in Turkey, we built 4X generator system, and we already started
Ayrıca
creating the
rüzgar
local
enerji santrallerine
supply
yönelik SCADA
system.
sistemlerinin geliştirilmesi,
And also,
öz kaynaklı Ar-Ge
development
projeleri
of the
kapsamında devam
SCADA
etmektedir.
systems is also
2023
in
yılı
progress
itibariyle
with our
megawatt üstü güç elektroniği
capital
laboratuvarımızın ve nacelle
and
montaj
our
fabrikasının
lab
kurulumuna başlanarak
and nacelle
2024
assembly
yılında
factory
tamamlanması
have
hedeflenmektedir.
been started to be
Yürütülen
constructed
projeler ve yeni yatırımların da gerçekleştirilmesi ile
with the new
toplam
investments to
50
be
milyon
weighed.
dolar üzerinde bir
A
yatırım
total
Aselsan
of
kendi
$50 million
kaynaklarıyla
of
ulaşılmış
investments
olacaktır.
will have been made
Geliştirilen
with the
jeneratör
self-resources
ve
of
güç
Aselsan.
dönüştürücülerin seri üretimi
And the mass
2023
production
yılında
of the
gerçekleştirilecek.
generator and the
2021
converters
yılında
will be
EUH ile
completed in
imzalanan Alaçatı
2023,
Rüzgar Enerji
and
Santrali yenilenmesi sözleşmesi kapsamında
in the
2 adet
scope
4
of
çarpı X megawattlık
the
rüzgar türbünü
Alaçatı
2024 yılında
wind turbine
devreye
renewal
alınacak.
project 2 will be commissioned
4,5 megawatt ailesine yönelik olarak ayrı
and
baş
for
firması
the
ile
family of
teknoloji
4 to
transfer
4.5
sözleşmesi
megawatt we
imzalanmıştır.
have signed a
Bu
technology
platform
transfer
ülkemizdeki satış ve üretim
contract.
hakları münhasıran altını
The
çizmek
sales and production rights
basit lisanslama değil,
of the
münhasıran
platform
Aselsan'a aittir.
belong
Ayrıca
exclusively
yurt dışı
to
satış hakları da
Aselsan,
alınmıştır.
and also
İlk prototip üretimi
abroad
EUH
sales rights
Alaçatı
have been
Restorasyonu
obtained.
yapılacak olup,
The first one
türbinler
will be
2024
done in
yılında,
Alaçatı
kullanıma
wind
Aselsan markasıyla
power
kullanıma
plants,
alınacağını
and the
söyleyeyim.
turbines will be commissioned under the
Ülkemizde
brand
ilk
of
defa
Aselsan
4
in
çarpı
2024.
megawatt üstü gücündeki rüzgar türbinleri için
And for the first time,
Sincap Kasep asekron jeneratör yerli imkanlarla tasarlanıp
the
üretilmektedir. Aramızda da üretim yaptırdığımız firmalar da
generator
bulunmaktadır. Şu
system
anda bizi dinlemektedir.
will be produced for the first time in our country. The engineer teams have been working with the technology transfer teams and with a team of 20 people, the mechanical design analysis and thermal analysis have been completed, and the modeling and algorithm development activities have been carried out by Aselsan engineers. For the first prototype production, we work with IOMET's company, and within the EUH project, Aselsan branded squirrel cage asynchronous generators are being used, and also the knowledge that we have gained, and along with this generator that we have developed, a full-scale power converter was also developed, and the prototype and production started. It comprises of 4 times 25 megawatt system, and this full-scale power converter was completely designed by Aselsan engineers. Initially, the lab prototype was developed and the tests have been completed. The technology readiness level was increased to 5, and in the next phase it will be turned into a commercial product, and with the wind turbine installable, the technology level will reach the level of 9, which is the very last level, and the production and assembly will be completed in the scope of technology transfer projects. An IEC 64401 certification will be carried out. On this slide, you may see the design processes. I would like to tell you about Aselsan SCADA system as well. This is highly important for the wind turbines. As different from the conventional SCADA systems, Aselsan SCADA system adopts with the new generation softwares, and it is an IoT platform. With this new generation architecture, it gives us scalability, flexibility, and high availability. With its flexible structure, Aselsan SCADA system also has customized libraries for different industries. The field application implementation was done for the oil, and along with the transmission and power generation systems, it will It is also being used in the potable
Mevcut
water
durumda
networks.
yaklaşık bir yıldır BOTAŞ ham
For
petrol
1 year
boru
nearly,
hattında kullanılmakta
in
olan
BOTAŞ
SKADA sistemi
raw
hem
oil
Aselsan
pipeline,
Arzu
the
cihazından
SCADA
hem
system of
farklı
Aselsan is being
RTU
used,
cihazlarından
and
hem de
it
third
comprises
party
of different
uygulamalardan
RTU
uluslararası
applications, and also
standartlarda tanımlı protokollerle
third-party
veri temin etmekte
applications are
ve
used
bu
for the
verilerin
supply of the
izlenmesini
data,
sağlamaktadır.
and
Ayrıca
all
acil
the
durum
data is being
senaryoları ve
monitored.
işletme
And also,
gereksinimleri
with
doğrultusunda
in
manuel ve
line with
otomatik
the
kontrol
emergency
yapmaktadır.
requirements, there is also
EUAŞ ile
manual and
imzalanan
automatic
sözleşme
control.
kapsamında
In the
Aselsan
scope of the
Türkiye'de
contract
Türkiye'nin
signed
4
with the
megawatt
EUAŞ,
güçlü ilk yerli rüzgar türbünü
the
üretecektir.
first
4
local
megawatt gücünde yaklaşık
domestic
100 metre kule
wind
yüksekliğinde
turbine with
137 metre
100
rotor
meter
çapında ve
tower
içli kutulu 2 adet
height,
Aselsan markalı rüzgar türbünü
two
devreye
Aselsan
alınmış
branded
olacaktır. Projede
wind turbines
Aselsan
will be
mühendislik ekiplerinin
commissioned,
tasarladığı,
and Aselsan
iyileştirdiği jeneratör,
engineers
tam ölçek
have
güç dönüştürücüsü ve türbin kontrol sistemi
designed this
kullanılacaktır.
system, and the
Bunun
turbine
dışında
control
bakım
system
onarımı
will be
ve
used here.
montaj tesisiyle
And also
üretim
with the
altyapısının
maintenance and assembly
tamamlanmasıyla
facility,
nacelle üretimi de
and
yine
the
Aselsan tarafından
nacelle production will also be carried out by Aselsan.
Şimdi yerleştirme hedefinden biraz bahsetmek istiyorum. Nasıl bir yol haritamız
Let me
var?
tell you
Neler
about our
yapmayı
localization objective.
Türkiye'de
What is the route map
gelişmekte
that we
olan
have?
yerli
What do we
rüzgar
plan to do?
ekosistemine destek olma ve
In order to
sürdürülebilir
support
kılma
the
hedefiyle
local
yürütmekte olduğumuz
wind turbine
yerleştirme
ecosystem in our
çalışmaları
country,
kapsamında
and to make it
mevcut yerli
sustainable,
tedarikçi ekosistemini de kullanarak
we are
%65
using
üzerinde bir
the
yerlilik
existing
oranı
local
yakalamayı başlatmayı
manufacturer
hedefliyoruz tesis planında. Rüzgar
network,
türbünü
and
de
at
Aselsan'ın
T0
kendi
we are
geliştirdiği
planning to have
jeneratör,
50%
güç dönüştürücü,
national
kontrol ve
local
SCADA
domestic
sistemleri
supply.
donanımı ve
And
yazılımlarına ilave olarak
in
platformda
addition
bulunan
to the
kanat,
softwares,
kule, döküm parçalar, elektrik
the
sistemleri,
wings,
nasel ve hap kabinleri gibi çok
electric
sayıda
systems,
bileşeninde yerli
nacelle
üreticilerle
and
kurulacak
lines,
işbirlikleriyle
cables
yerleşmesini
will also
planlamaktayız.
be localized
Aselsan
along with
marka rüzgar
our
türbünü için
local
tedarik
producers.
zinciri oluşturulmasına yönelik olarak başta
And
yurt içi
in
firmalar
order
olmak
to
üzere yüzün üstünde
develop
yerli ve
a
yabancı
local system,
firmayla
we
görüştürmeler gerçekleştirildi.
have conducted negotiations
Yerleşme
with more than
kapsamında
100
işbirliği
companies
yapabileceğimiz
at home and
stratejik
abroad,
iş ortaklarımızı
and
mevcut
our
ekosistem
strategic
içerisinde
business
belirlenmeye
partners
başlandı.
are now being
Alternatifli olarak,
identified
birden fazla
within
aynı konuda
the existing
alternatifli olarak
network
belirlenmeye
system,
başlandı.
with
Aselsan olarak
alternatives
yerli
as well.
sanayi
As
güvenimiz
Aselsan,
tam
we fully
ve
count on our
gelişimleri
local
için
industry,
elimizden gelen
and for
her türlü
their
desteği
development,
vermeye
we
gayret
are
ediyoruz.
putting our best efforts to make sure that they
Süremi
improve.
doldurmadan son yansılarıma geliyorum.
I will
Sabahattin Bey.
tell you my
Şimdi
final words before I
yurt
complete
içi
my time.
sektörümüzde beklentilerimizi
In our
Aselsan olarak açıkçası,
domestic
iletmek
industry,
istiyorum. Burada,
I would like to tell you
hem
about our
üreticilerimiz var, hem
expectations.
yatırımcılarımız
We
var.
have the
Ülkemizde,
producers and investors here. In our country,
Yerleşme önümüzdeki başlıca
the
engellere
localization
baktığımızda ölçek
has some
ekonomisi ve
setbacks,
sanayideki altyapı
scale
kısıtlar
economy,
ön
and
plana
infrastructure
çıkarken,
limitations in the
pandeminin etkilerinin
industry
üzerine son
are in the
dönemde yaşanan
forefront.
jeopolitik
And
gelişmelerin
in
getirdiği
addition to the
risklerle
pandemic,
birlikte
some risks have also
uzayan
been brought
malzeme
along
tedarik
by
süreleri
some
ve fiyatlarda
recent
oluşan
problems,
istikrarsızlıkları
and
en önemli sorunlar olarak
the
karşımıza çıkmakta.
instability in price are the
Ayrıca,
most important
geliştirilen
problems that we
ürünlerin
experience.
test edilmesi için
And also,
gerekli akredite tesis
required
altyapılarında maalesef
accredited facility
ülkemizde
infrastructures
kısıtlı
are also
olduğunu
limited in our country
Aselsan
for
olarak
the
devlet
accreditation
tedarikçilerin
of the
gelişimine
developed products.
destek olmanın yanı sıra
In
kendi test
addition
ve üretim
to
altyapıları
supporting
kurarak
our
özgün
local
ürünlerimizle,
producers, we also
yani saymış olduğum
create our
jeneratör,
testing
SCADA,
facilities with our unique products such as
yerlik
power
oranların artırılmasına
converter,
odaklı bir şekilde
SCADA
sürdürmeyi
systems.
hedefliyoruz.
We would like
Ayrıca
to further
hem
increase
rüzgar,
the
hem
localization
güneş
rates.
enerjisi alanında
And also,
test altyapılarının geliştirilmesine yönelik ortak çalışmalar
we
ve
work
yatırımlar
in
içinde
common
Türk Standartları Enstitüsü ile
in
yakın
order
temas
to improve
içerisindeyiz.
our operations, so we are in
Aselsan
close
olarak
contact
savunma
with
sanayindeki
Turkish
güçlü
Standards
teknolojik
Institute.
bilgi birikimimizi
As Aselsan,
ve
we hold a
kabiliyetlerimizi
vast
kullanarak
accumulation of
enerji
knowledge
sektöründe
in the defense
ülkemizin
industry, and
ihtiyaç
we
duyduğu
would like to
teknolojileri
benefit from that
yerleştirmeyi
experience and we would like to make sure that the required technologies are localized and the current deficit of our country is decreased significantly.
Rüzgar türbini biraz da bu son yansım bahsedip
I will
tamamlamayı
tell you about the
düşünüyorum.
wind turbine.
Rüzgar
This is
türbini
my
pazarı
last
hakkında
slide.
kısaca değerlendirme yapacak olursak,
If
değerli
I should tell you
katılımcılar,
briefly
Türkiye
about
pazarı
the
için
wind
2050
turbine
yıllarına
industry
kadar
for the
malumunuz
Turkish
rüzgar enerji
market,
kurulu güç hedefinin 85
the
gigawatt
installed power in
civarında
wind
olduğunu
energy is
görülmekte.
nearly
Bu
85
bağlamda rüzgar
gigawatts.
türbininde hedeflenen yerlilik oranının artırılması
Accordingly,
planlanmaktadır.
we are
Devletimiz
planning
tarafından.
to increase the
Aselsan
localization
rüzgar
rates
türbininde yerlilik
in the
oranını
wind
%70'in
turbines.
üzerine çıkarmayı hedeflemektedir.
We would like to increase the
karbon sıfır
localization
hedefi
rate
ve
by
doğalgaz krizi
70%.
sonrasında uluslararası pazarda yenilebilir
In the
enerjiye olan talep
international
artmıştır.
market, the
Bu durumda
demand
mevcut
for
Türk
renewable
üretim
energies has
kapasitesinin artan
increased,
talebi karşılamada
and
yetersiz
the
kalacağı
existing
öngörülmektedir. Bu
capacity will
sebeple
fail to meet
global rüzgar
the
türbini
need.
oyuncuları offshore
Therefore,
pazarına ağırlık vermektedir.
the global wind
Avrupa'daki
power
işletmelerdeki santrallerin bir
producers
kısmının
mostly
yaklaşık
work
40
with the
gigawattlık
offshore systems,
ekonomik ömrü de dolmak
and
üzeredir.
the
Bu
economic
santrallerdeki
life of
türbinlerin
the
yenilenmesi
power
de
plants in
gerekecektir.
Europe are almost
Politik olarak
over, so they will
güçlü
have to be
olduğumuz
refurbished
ülkelerdeki
and
rüzgar
renewed.
enerjisi potansiyeli, bunlar işte
The
Azerbaycan
wind
gibi,
energy potential
hem
with the
Türkiye hem
in the
orada bulunan
countries
ülkelerin
that partner with us,
bizim için
such as
önemli pazar
Azerbaijan and the
oluşturmaktadır.
other Middle East
Sektörde
countries,
uzun
they are
dönemli servis
important markets for
anlaşmaları
us,
önemli bir mali getiri sağlamaktadır.
and
Türbin
long-term
üreticileri bu
servicing
döneme ait kar
agreements
durumları yerine göre
also bring a
%100'ü
good
bulmaktadır.
profit in the
Aselsan
industry, and
tarafından
the
hali
profit
hazırdaki
rates are around
geliştirmiş olduğumuz
100% in the sector.
tekrar söylediğim jeneratör
As Aselsan, we have developed the generator, power converter, SCADA, and turbine control systems. Also, with the technology transfer,
geliştirilecektir.
the designs of the other components will also be
Tasarımları
developed
önümüzdeki dönemlerde geliştirilecek.
in the
Aselsan'ın
upcoming period.
savunma sanayinde elde etmiş olduğu
Aselsan
tecrübeyi
has gained an experience in the defense industry and using it in the wind energy is also important to us. You already know about the designing part, and this requires system engineering and integrated logistics. And by distinguishing ourselves, we would like to become an international brand in this field too. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Hocam biz teşekkür ediyoruz. Ağzınıza sağlık. Çok memnun olduk.
Thank you,
İlk
Professor.
defa sunuyorsunuz hocam bunu. Yani bu
Is it the first time that you are presenting it? Yes, I have not presented this before. We're pleased to hear that you are working in this
Biz
area.
genelde savunma sanayinde ürünüyle ortaya çıkmayı severiz, anlatmayı değil de.
In the defense industry, most of the time,
oturum
come
sırasına
up
gideceğiz.
with the product
Genel bir
itself,
soruyla,
not with prototypes.
kapsayıcı iki soruyu birleştirerek soracağım. Bir son
I will bring together two questions.
bırakalım istiyorum. Ebru Hanım, siz Siemens
Ebru Hanım,
Gamesa olarak
As Siemens Gamesa,
gelecekte, yakın gelecekte yani 2023-24 bu yıllar bizim için çünkü çok önemli, bütün dünya için önemli. Türkiye'de ve küresel pazarda yatırımcılara sunmayı
what will you offer to the investors in Turkey and across the world? What is your technology portfolio?
Ve pandemi, Rusya, Ukrayna savaşıyla inşallah doğruya ulaştırmıştır. Bundan daha kötü günler görmeyiz.
Hopefully, we have seen the worst after the pandemic and Ukraine-Russia crisis, and hopefully the problems are now over. So there is an increasing interest in the renewable energy, especially in the solar energy and wind energy. So Do you plan to make any change in your portfolio or in your production
Teşekkürler
centers?
Sayın Genel Müdürüm.
Thank you, General Director.
Öncelikle bir teşekkürle başlamak istiyorum.
I would like to start with thanking the Türep family and everyone else who put effort into this organization for bringing us together, and I would like to welcome all the participants. We have a room that is filled. This shows us the interest in the technology. I'm very pleased to see that. I would like to tell the people who do not know us about our company. It is called Siemens Gamesa International. We have onshore and offshore technology. Siemens Gamesa designs, produces, sells these turbines. According to 2021 figures, we have nearly 10 billion euros of annual sales, and we have received an order of 33 billion euros as for 2021. We have an installed power of 120 gigawatts, and we have 26,000 employees. Technology is right in the center of our operations. We are a technology company, and therefore we are investing more than 200 million euros in this field. We have nearly 1,500 R&D engineers working across the world. And with these investments, we have covered a very good distance in the wind sectors. We celebrated the 30th anniversary of the first offshore wind energy in Denmark, and the nominal power was 0.45, and the largest one now is around 15 megawatts. So in 30 years we were able to increase from 0.45 megawatt to 15 megawatt. The first wing length was 35 meter length, and the largest one is now 236 meters. So they are giant machines. You can't help yourself admiring them. The technology investments have brought us to this point. In accordance with our global technology development operations, in 2019 we established an R&D center in Izmir. It is the largest R&D center in Izmir. We have 100 people in the R&D center right now. We are very much pleased with this investment at a global scale, and we have our Turkish engineers with a PhD degree, and we created this system right in the middle of the pandemic, and we totally hired the people in virtual settings, and this is quite a pleasing one, and our R&D structure went through a transformation, and we made a consolidation accordingly, and now we have two design centers. One of them is in Turkey and two of them are in India. I believe we have positioned Turkey very well. One of the changes that we made was bringing together our onshore and offshore teams. What does that mean? We have one R&D unit in our company. Onshore and offshore will be working together. What does that mean for Turkey? It means means
çalışmalarını hızlandıracağımız,
we
artıracağımız
will
anlamına
further
geliyor.
accelerate our
Buradaki arkadaşlarımız
onshore
birebir
activities
global
in
projelerimizde
Turkey
aktif
R&D
olarak
Center,
çalışıyorlar.
and our colleagues are already working
faaliyetlerinden
in
kısaca bahsetmek gerekirse
the center.
merkezimizi
As for
ilk
our
kurarken,
fields of operation,
geniş bir
when we first
disiplin
established our
yelpazesinde,
center,
uçtan uca Ar-Ge'nin tüm, yani rüzgar sektöründe Ar-Ge'nin tüm önemli konularına dokunan bir
We
Ar-Ge merkezi olmasına dikkat
wanted
ettik.
to make sure that it's an R&D center that touches all the fields of
altında
R&D,
toplayabiliriz
and
faaliyet
we may
alanlarını.
bring them
Birincisi
together under
LODS
6 fields.
dediğimiz, yani loads control, yük dağılımı,
The first one is
aerodinamik,
loads control,
kontrol sistemleri,
aerodynamics,
rüzgar sahası
control
analizleri,
systems,
iklimlendirme
wind
gibi
field
konular. İkincisi
analysis,
elektrik, elektronik.
intranasal
Burada
conditioning, and
modelleme,
second one
komponent
is
tasarımı,
electric
dağıtım sistemi
and
entegrasyonu
electronic,
gibi konularda çalışıyoruz.
and we're working
Üçüncüsü
with
yazılım.
various fields there. And
Yazılımı daha
the
da
third one
büyütme,
is software.
düşüncemiz var.
We
Burada,
would like to
kardeş
further
şirketimiz
expand
Siemens AG Türkiye
the
organizasyonunu
software.
örnek alıyoruz. Siemens AŞ
Siemens
Türkiye birimine.
AŞ
1000
is
adet
our
yazılım mühendisi
Turkey
var
unit.
Siemens AŞ
We
Türkiye
have
bünyesinde.
1000 software
Bütün global
engineers
projelerin, yazılım işleri
within
buradan
Siemens
yürütülüyor.
Türkiye AŞ,
Siemens'in,
and
İstanbul'daki
the
kampüsüne
global operations are
gittiğinizde
carried
sanki
out
Google'ın
from here.
Yahoo'nun
When you go
kampüsüne
to the
gitmiş
campus
gibi
in Istanbul, it is like
görüyorsunuz. Genç
a Google
arkadaşlarımız,
campus or
Ar-Ge'ci
Yahoo
arkadaşlarımız,
campus. We have our young
dolaşıyorlar,
R&D
birlikte
engineers
çalışıyorlar.
wandering around and
Vizyonumuz
working
bu,
with one
rüzgar
another. That is our
sektörü içinde.
vision for the
Dördüncü konu
wind
servis
industry.
teknolojileri. Bu
The fourth one
arkadaşlarımız
is the
yerel ve bölgesel servis operasyonları
service
için
technologies,
teknoloji geliştiriyorlar.
and
Ayrıca
those
ilk olarak
colleagues are developing
sanayileşme,
technology,
global proje,
and also we
mühendislik
have the
konularında da
industrialization.
Ürünlere çok
that
çok
we
kısa
work
değinmek
for.
gerekirse
If
onshore
I should talk
tarafında
about the
en
products
yeni
very
ailemiz
shortly,
5X
on the
dediğimiz
onshore side
familya,
we have
en
our
büyüğü şu
5X
anda,
family right now,
7 megawatt
and the largest one
mertebesinde
is around
170
7
metre,
megawatts,
rotor
and
çaplı,
it has a
çok
rotor
büyük,
diameter of
teknoloji
170
büyümeye
meters.
devam ediyor.
It is a very large one. The technology is
Ayrıca,
expanding even more, and
sadece
also
büyüklüğe ek olarak
in
türbinlerin
addition
ömrünü
to
de
the
uzatmış
size,
durumdayız. Şu
we have
anda,
also
30 yıl ve
extended
üzeri,
the
ömürleri
life
var
of
bu
the
5X
turbines. They have
ürünlerinin.
more than
Eskiye
30
oranla
years
türbin
of
ömürleri de uzuyor.
turbine life
Offshore
right now.
tarafında bahsettiğim
On the
gibi
offshore
en büyük
side, as
türbinimiz
I said
15
before, our
megawatt
largest turbine is
mertebesinde
15
236
megawatts,
metre rotor
and it
çaplı.
has a rotor
En
diameter
son
of
Tayvan'da
236
2 hafta
meters.
önce 1
In
gigawattın
Taiwan,
üzerinde
most
bir
recently,
sipariş aldık. Çok
we have
popüler,
received
çok beğenilen
an
bir
order of 1
ürün.
gigawatt. It is a
Teknolojiye
very popular and
sadece
very
yeni
much
ürün
appreciated
geliştirip
product.
pazara sunma olarak
And
bakmıyoruz.
technology is not
Mevcut
only
ürün
about
portföyümüzün
designing
optimizasyonu da,
and developing and
teknolojinin
launching
çok
new
önemli bir
products, but
parçası.
also optimization of the
çerçevede,
existing systems is also highly important to us.
Örnek
Accordingly,
vermek gerekirse 5X türbini ilk dizayn edildiği zamanla
when the
bugün
5X turbine
karşılaştırdığımız
was
zaman
first
%20
designed, when we
daha
compare
az
it,
parça var şu anda
we
türbinin
now have
içinde.
20% less products in the turbine, and the weight has been decreased by 8 to 10 tons. The cost optimization, LCOE improvement, they are in progress all the time. We also have the floating systems. We work with Steel Offshore Company. We have a demo activity. It sees the very first floating turbine. It works 10 kilometers away from the coast. Siemens Gamesa has 3.6 megawatt direct drive system, and it is producing energy on a floating system. Also, we have High Wind England and High Wind Norway projects, and we have the demos for floating turbines, and our teams are working to add new ones to them. I would like to tell you about the optical wing system, and this is used for the integral systems, and it was designed by us. The wings are checked with lasers, and quality problems are avoided this way. And currently Denmark, France, and England, Siemens
Digital
Gamesa
Ventures Lab'den bahsettik.
Wing
Bu oluşum yine şirketimizin
factories are using.
içerisinde
Also, we have
hem ürünlerimizin
our
hem de
venture
şirketimizin dijital
for
dönüşümü konusunda
the
çalışıyor.
digital
Geri
transformation of
dönüştürülebilir
our
kanatlar üzerinde çalışıyoruz.
companies.
Hem onshore'da hem
We're working
offshore'da
on
çok başarılı
renewable
tecrübelerimiz
wings
var.
as well.
Şu ana
And
kadar türbinlerin
up until
%85'i
now,
geri dönüştürülebilir.
85% of the
Kanat
turbines
kısmı
were
eksik kalmıştı.
recyclable,
Ama artık bu
and only the
teknoloji de
wing
var.
part
Bu
was
sayede
missing, and now we have this technology as well.
dünyamıza
And
atık
thankfully,
üretimine
this
çok büyük
way,
katkılarda bulunacağımızı
we will
düşünüyoruz.
contribute to the
Burada
waste management
teknoloji,
on
yeni
Earth.
bir rezin teknolojisi,
The
yeni bir materyal
technology is
teknolojisine
a new
dayanıyor.
resin and new material technology,
Ömrünü doldurmuş
and
kanatlar
the
ısıtılmış,
wings
hafif asidik
that
bir solüsyona
are
batırılıyor.
expired
Bu rezin eriyor
are
ve o
placed
kanadın
in a
kaplamasının
resin,
altındaki
and
ahşap, fiber, metal, plastik
the
gibi
fiber,
materyaller
wood,
ortaya çıkıyor.
plastic
Korunmuş
and
vaziyette
metal
oldukları için bunlar
under the
otomotiv
coating
sektöründe,
are
paketleme
revealed, and
sektöründe
because they are
vesaire
protected, they
kullanılabiliyor
can
ve
be
tam
used in
anlamıyla
automotive
geri
industry
dönüştürülebilir
or
oluyor.
packaging industry,
Son
and
olarak
they are
yeşil
fully
hidrojen. Burada da
recyclable.
çok somut başarılarımız
Last
var. Hem
but not
onshore'da
least,
hem
we have the
offshore'da.
green
Onshore tarafında
hydrogen,
Burak ve
and
Danimarka'da
on
bir
the offshore
hidrojen
side,
platformumuz
we have
var.
a
Aktif olarak
hydrogen
hidrojen üretiyor.
platform
3
in
megawattlık
Denmark.
bir
It
Siemens
is
Gamesa
producing
türbiniyle,
hydrogen
island modda
with
yani
a 3
şebekeye
megawatt
bağlı
Siemens
olmadan
Gamesa
çalışıyor. Burada üretilen
turbine,
yeşil hidrojen ile şu
and
anda
with the
Kopenhag'da
green
taksiler
hydrogen
çalışıyorlar.
produced
Yani
here, the
buradaki
Copenhagen
yeşil hidrojeni
taxis
yakıt olarak
are running.
kullanıyorlar.
They are using
Offshore tarafında kardeş
the
şirketimiz
green
Siemens Enerji ile
hydrogen as an
işbirliğimiz
energy
var.
resource.
Bu konuya 120 milyon euro
And
yatırım
also,
yapma kararı aldık
we
yaklaşık
decided
bir
to
sene
invest
önce.
120 million euros in this
Siemens
field
Enerji
1 year ago.
elektrolizör
Siemens
teknolojisine getiriyoruz,
Energy
rüzgar
brings
teknolojisine getiriyoruz.
the
Ve burada bir
electric
ürün
technology, and we
geliştirme
bring
çalışmamız
in the
var. Aynı
wind
zamanda
technology, and we are
RWE firmasıyla
developing a
bir
product. We are
anlaşmamız var
also
ve 2030
having
yılına
a
kadar
contract
300
with
ila 500
RWE
megawatt
company,
mertebesinde
and by
bir
2030
yeşil hidrojen offshore sahası
we would like to
kurmayı
have a green
planlıyoruz.
hydrogen
Son
offshore
olarak
field
servis
of 300 to
teknolojileri,
500
o
megawatts.
konuda
And
da
lastly,
servis ve türbin
we have
operasyonlarını
the
optimize
service
etmek için
technologies,
dedicated
and
R&D
we have
ekiplerimiz var.
dedicated
Çok kısa
R&D
sorunuza
teams
cevap vermek gerekirse,
to develop
Sayın
services
Sebahattin Bey,
for this field as well.
Şimdi bu
As for your
jeopolitik
question,
dinamikler,
the
bakış
geopolitic
açılarını, tedarik zincirine
dynamics
bakış açılarını değiştiriyor. Artık
change
ülkeler,
the
şirketler
weave
daha
of
korumacı, tavırlar
such
alıyorlar
technologies,
tedarik
and
zincirlerinde.
the companies
Özellikle Asya
adopt
bölgesinden uzaklaşma
more
yönünde üretimi Avrupa'ya veya Avrupa yakınlarına çekme
different
yönünde
strategies. They
çalışmalar
would
var.
like to bring
Dışa
the
bağımlılığı
manufacturing to
azaltma
Europe,
yönünde çalışmalar
and
var.
they are also
Bunun
working
ben
hard to
Türkiye için bir
decrease
fırsat
external
olacağını
dependence.
düşünüyorum.
I believe
Bu
this will
konuyu
be
çok yakın
an
takip ediyoruz.
advantage
Biz de
to
Siemens
Turkey,
Gamesa'dan,
and we're
Gamesa
following
olarak
it
Türkiye'deki
very closely as
tedarikçilerden
Siemens
satın aldığımız
Gamesa.
komponentleri yurt dışı projelerimizde kullanıyoruz. Bu
We are
alanda aktif
using
olarak
the
çalışmalara
components
devam
from the
ediyoruz.
Turkish manufacturers in our operations abroad, and we will actively work in this field.
Tabii
Thank you.
Çin yapan batıdır diye söz
You know,
eskiden de böyle.
They say it is the West that makes the China.
Yani üretim üstünün ucuz
The
bu kadar
production was so far in China
uzak lokasyonda yapılması
because they were cheap, and that meant with the smallest crisis like the sheep
nelere mal oldu ekonomik olarak hepimiz şahit.
blocking the canal, causing major problems in economy. And for the crisis that might happen
Hem maliyet
in the future, they will be major problems,
tüketim alanlarına yakın üretim
and
alanlarına seçilmesi kaçınılmaz hale geliyor.
it will be inevitable to choose
Konuşmanızın
locations that are
müsaade ederseniz.
close to the usage fields. R&D center is highly important, and Siemens
Zamanında yerine gerçekleştirdi ve
has completed its
Adem merkezini
activities and started its factory in R&D center. There is no production in the factory now,
yapıyor, takip ediyor.
but the R&D center is working very well since the day it was established. The YECA model is not an investment model on its own. we have put a lot of missions to YEKA. Actually, it is a financing model and it is an investment model, but it is not an investment model on its own. YEKAs have been delayed, but the factory is being established with Siemens, and the R&D center has to employ 50 people in accordance with the contract, but they have now 100 people. This R&D center will maybe become a very important R&D center at an international level. And two of our international speakers were from YEKA, and also Arif Bey has won REKA too, so they have to produce in Turkey, and in order to produce it they have to do R&D and they have to develop the logistics here. So we often see this, the investors think the YEKA model is to be developed. YEKA has very different missions, so they should not be compared indeed. And it is very important that Turkey has achieved this potential, because this company, which has been in Turkey for 160 years, has brought its R&D center to Turkey, and we're really proud of it. And we would like to thank Siemens for this reason. Ibrahim Bey, I also would like to ask you, which products will you be launching in the future, and considering the extraordinary cases that we have experienced most recently, will they cause any difference, and what will be the position of Turkey? I would like to thank you very much, Sebahattin Bey, for the moderation, and I would like to thank all the participants for their attendance. This is Ibrahim Özaslan. I am European CEO of Nordex. Nordex is a German origin turbine manufacturer like Siemens. Our headquarters is located in Hamburg, and the turbine production started in 1980 and with N27 turbine, and right now the most recent technology is N163. And we have nearly 9,000 employees. Our annual turnover for 2022 is 5.6 billion euros. We work with onshore turbines only. As said by Ebru Hanım, we are not working with offshore technologies. Nordex works mostly in Europe with the European countries, and it is developing turbine technology. We already grew in Europe, and then we were merged with Acciona Group in 2016, and we started working with Americas, India, Australia, and we expanded to those markets as well. In general, the turbine design, turbine production, turbine transportation, assembly, service and maintenance are the fields that we cover. Across the world, we have nearly 50 gigawatts installed power, and as I said earlier, we are working with Europe and Turkey mostly. As for the technology, we have a very vast range of technologies. Our N117 turbine is the smallest one, starting with 3.6 megawatt, and N163 is the 6x largest turbine that we have. In Hamburg, in September, we launched our new turbine. Starting from 2015, the mass production will start. N175, it is again 6x, 175 rotor and 6x nominal power,
prototip hazırlıklarını yapıyoruz.
and we're now also working on the prototypes.
İtibariyle de
Starting from 2025, we will be launching it to the market as Nordex.
Türkiye pazarına 2007 yılında ilk projemizi
We
imzalayarak,
first signed our first project in Turkey in 2007. The installed power in Turkey was very small, 19 to 20 megawatts back then. During that time, the Turkish market grew and Nordex grew, and right now we have nearly 3.5 gigawatts installed power, 370 employees and 95 wind parks. And our service network covers 86 service stations.
hem türbin tedariği, kurulumu, bunların devreye alınması ve servisini, bakımını üstlenerek
And we are undertaking the installation, production and service and maintenance of the wind turbines in Turkey. And our headquarters is located in Istanbul. In Izmir we have an operations center. We also established our academy here, and the reason why it was established is to train the technicians in Turkey, and back then Pakistan was also covered under Turkey, and the technicians here had problems with going to America and Europe for training. That's why we started our academy back then, and the academy grew, and right now it is the largest academy after the one that we have in our headquarters, and it is the most equipped one, and it serves the technicians and engineers in Turkey and also from Europe. As the market in Turkey, we are very proud of this. As for the market in Turkey, our smallest turbine is N80, starting with a diameter of 80 meters, and we have N163, which is our newest product. It was also commissioned in Kayseri last month, and hopefully we will also see the largest turbines being installed in Turkey as well. In terms of the supply chain, Nordex is producing the nacelle in Germany and Spain, and the wings are produced in Turkey, India, Brazil, Mexico and Spain. Nacelle is also produced in India. So by aiming at a supply chain away from Europe, we have conducted this restructuring, and it was initiated 5 years ago. It was mostly based on Europe earlier, and we moved from Europe to the Asian countries, and also we were mostly focused on the Brazilian market and America market, and also we are producing the wings in Izmir, and from Turkey we are also offering the products to the market in Turkey and abroad. In terms of the technology, the network integration is one of our areas of specialty, especially in Australia and Ireland, because the weakest networks are in Ireland and Australia, and also we have our storage facilities. We have 2 commercial storages in Ireland. In Spain we started a prototype, and there is one in Hamburg
test amaçlı.
Germany, and it was started for test purposes.
Aynı zamanda SCADA sistemlerinin gelişmesi, işte türbin teknolojilerinin
Also,
gelişmesi,
regarding the
kulelerin
development
özellikle
of SCADA systems and turbines, especially the heights of the tower and hybrid towers with concrete on the base and steel on the top, with a height of 164 meters, and it will be going more than 195 meters, so we are still developing those technologies. In the Northern Europe, in the forest lands where the wind is low and where we have higher winds with a shear effect, and they are based in Finland and Germany. So those are the technologies preferred by the investors mostly. We also have our hydrogen projects. Right now we are developing our electrolyzer projects in certain countries. We are developing hydrogen systems in Mexico, Chile, America, Morocco, and our purpose is to develop the projects and to provide the technology both in the turbine and electrolyzers and creating the infrastructure so that we will be able to develop it and we will be able to offer them to the investors. As for your second question, I would like to say more about it, especially the supply chain. Ebru Hanım also spoke about it. During the pandemic, the industry had a supply chain which was mostly based in Asia and Europe, and of course the pandemic broke the balances, and especially the manufacturers in Europe moved to Asia, and also some suppliers either went bankrupt or they removed themselves from the industry, because during the pandemic the sales were very low and there were problems with the manpower, and the supply chain actually got broken, and they moved to Asia, India, and the component producers in Europe they were having the advantages of producing in Asia, India, because of the cost and also because the industry was stronger there. And in Europe, there's still a production, but the sub-components are mostly supplied from Asia. Therefore, the industry was highly dependent on China and India. During the pandemic, in 2022, the war in Ukraine started, and with that, the costs were increased, the raw material prices were increased, and that meant high increase of costs. And the Ukraine war even increased it further, especially the increased prices in steel, Russian vessels being not used, and the production of steel halting all of a sudden meant increasing the steel prices by twice in Europe. As a turbine manufacturer, we had to find new suppliers. We were already producing the towers and the wings in Turkey, but as the costs were increased, especially the steel supply was from China and Korea, and Turkey
Türkiye'den yapılması.
found a good opportunity here because the steel was coming from China and production was being made in Turkey, so we increased our production here. Within a year,
Avrupa'ya ve globala ihraç ettiğimiz
our
kanat seti
export
510 set kanat ihraç ettik.
of wing sets was 110, 510, and nearly 600 towers were exported. I am not talking about the local market here. As Ebru Hanım also said, because of this dependence and the war in Ukraine, the European companies would like to move their supply to Europe or as close to them as possible. So Turkey has a very good advantage. In this regard, there is already an advanced industry in some fields, and there is already a chance of producing more and different components. So that means creating the supply chain here, and EU and the politics have to support as well. It is not very easy to do. Well, Turkey is neighboring Europe, that's why we have a chance of trading with Asia and with other countries from here. That's why it's a key country for our operations. That's why, Sebahattin Bey, you were asking about the developments in Turkey, about the supply chain. I can say, not only for the Turkish markets, but also for the European and global markets, Turkey has great advantages right now, and I believe we have to make good use of this opportunity as the country, as the industry, and the industry in Turkey now has a chance of development, and there are some criteria for that. There were some questions in our meeting on Monday. Why are we not producing nacelle in Turkey? In order to produce them in Turkey, there must be an industry in Turkey. We were talking about 8,600 components in a turbine, and part of them must be produced in Turkey. And when you actually produce them in Turkey, the nacelle factory will be established here very soon, because the nacelle factory doesn't have a very big added value to the country. It is important that we are producing those components here. Sebahattin Bey, I will respond to what you say regarding whether or not it has an added value. So my point is that the balance in the supply chain is undergoing a transformation, and Turkey has to make some smart and quick attacks in order to make sure that the industry emerges here, and this way it will be successful. When we look at the local market, we could see there is now an action, and that is great for the market, but we don't really have great volumes here. Ebru Hanım and Levent Bey, we're contracting 1 turbine or 2 turbines or 3 turbines. This is still better than nothing, but if we are to bring the industry to an advanced level, we must have bigger volumes, and we must have a route map. We have been discussing about it for long years, but this is now even more important, not only for the local market or for YEKA, but also for the supply chain to move to Turkey. This is highly important. That's why, in terms of the supply, those are my ideas. I believe there is a great opportunity in Turkey right now. Thank you very much. You said something very important. You said we have to create an ecosystem in order to carry out some productions. In order to create the ecosystem, you have to be able to do the production somewhere, whether it is at home or abroad. Of course, it will be a great advantage if you can do that at home. Since 2013, we have been talking about creating the system, so we enacted the regulations. And since then, we have been accounting for this matter to EU, and some financing institutions say no credit will be given to some certain organizations who do not have it. But it is very interesting that very recently I didn't really think that a problem would bring along such good things. This is something strengthening what you have said, encouraging the domestic production in Turkey is about shift of paradigm, and actually with the pandemic and with this made-up war, this infrastructure has now been created. And what you say is true. The European countries are able to manufacture things in Turkey, and now there is an infrastructure for alternative productions as well. Producing a wing in Hamburg and bringing to Turkey. I mean, this is not spoken. There is also a carbon footprint here, because in order to bring that here from Canada, you will have to spend energy. I mean, producing it in Sivas and installing it in Izmir has a much more different carbon footprint than producing it in Morocco and Canada and bringing to Izmir. Well, as you said, it was found that we are right, and we said we will be decreasing it, and there are now many industrialists here, and this is the evolved version of local production. YEKA and the local equipments made that possible, and we are really proud that we are hearing it from you. I will not repeat the same question. We would like to hear your opinion on this. You can tell us about the updates on YEKA. We are going through an adventure here, and there are very nice developments. RES 3 will come faster, and of course you are setting foot on the mines planted by the state, and there are some slight injuries, and thanks to YEKA, even our senior officers are saying that thankfully we have you in our country, and we are able to do that in our country. The mines that we set foot on actually brought about good things, and we will overcome those setbacks altogether.
aşıyoruz.
We are
Aşıyoruz.
overcoming them, and we will overcome
Burada da
them.
bahsedebilirsiniz.
And you can also mention in this round, or you can say that in your second round. Thank you very much, dear moderator. Hopefully, you still have some energy to listen. Now that we have started, maybe we could have another round of applause.
Evet. Ben de müsaadenizle
If you allow me,
tanımanlar
maybe
varsa da
some
ben
do not know me, I would like to tell you about what Enercon is, and then I will answer your questions. In Enercon, we have 58.2 gigawatts, which is equal to 32,000 turbines. And in addition to the turbines, we also have our project services as well as the maintenance services after the installation. Enercon divided the world into 6 regions, and one of them is Central Asia, Middle East and Africa continent, and Turkey was also included in this region. And in this geography, we are transferring our know-how to them. As known, as we have repeated multiple times, we have been in Turkey since '98, and next year our turbines will be 25 years old and they are still operational. And along with that, our story started. We have a cumulative installed power of 2.5 gigawatt, and we have nearly 1,100 turbines installed. In Turkey, we have 640 employees, and we have 19 service centers to serve the existing 1,100 turbines. And in the upcoming years, what do we offer to our customers? According to the wind classes, we will have 1A, 2A and 3A turbine platforms. And in the recent years, the low wind and moderate wind fields have been popular, and in the fields with a high wind have been already completed, so we're now concentrating on those parts. And right now we're offering E160 to our investors, and starting from 2024, E175 will be offered to the investors, which is a 6.4 megawatt turbine. This one is using the state-of-art technology. It is a single wing design of 86 meters, and I've listened to Aselsan very excitedly. Hopefully we will compete in terms of technology while deciding on them. Of course, larger ones are asked for, but we have to take the geographical conditions into consideration, because in some of the regions with some turbulence and severe weather conditions, we have to be careful. Polat Energy has 756 megawatt installed power, and the resilience of 801 megawatt turbines. The expectation still continues, but as the turbines grow bigger, there is also a risk for the turbines, and accordingly we have to study them very well. And before we launched this turbine,
üzerinde önemli pazarlardan birisidir.
Enercon is one of the important markets here, and in the other large markets,
Yapılabilecek özelliği var mıdır?
we are seeing whether it is possible to install geographically, and we carry out test runs and we study them, and accordingly we define the market in which markets that turbine could be sold
Ve buna istinaden de bu türbin
and where it could be installed, and this model
tasarımda da
was designed accordingly and with one blade
olabilecek sınırlarda olan ve
it is much
karasal
easier to transport,
geldiğimizde bir şekilde görüyoruz. Artık bunun
and in the upcoming processes
her yıl yeni bir kasa, yeni bir türbin muhtemelen herhalde
probably we will not see a new case or a new blade or a new design every year, because
çok zorladığımız yerlere
we have come to
olarak tabii ki daha boyutlu
the most challenging
devam edecektir ama bu
conditions in terms of the land designs.
bir şekilde çalışmalar devam edecek. İkinci sorunuzda
As for your
geçebiliriz
second
Sabahattin Bey.
question,
Çünkü bu esnada da özellikle işte bizim Avrupa'da Avrupa ağırlıklı üretim merkezleri
we have our production centers in Europe
derken tabii ki bu
and
Almanya,
in Germany, Poland, Portugal,
Dünyası Türkiye'de tabii ki Avrupa dahilinde ve jeopolitik olarak
and
çok önem arz eden ve Türkiye'de
in
zaten
Turkey
üretimini de yaptığımız ve çok ciddi burada
we
tecrübe
produced
kazandığımız bir ülke.
for the
Ve
first time, and we
ben tabii ki şu
obtained very good experiences.
YK'yı da bir şekilde burada
And
pekiştirmek için ve buradaki üretim derinliğini
in
arttırmak
order
için
to increase our experience in production here,
üstü ürünlerimizi
we
uygun bir şekilde üretmek için bir tedarik zinciri
have created a supply chain,
tabii kule gibi büyük aksamlı
and the large parts like the blade are now being
yine
produced in Turkey.
aktardığı
And
nedenlerden
due to the reasons mentioned by Ibrahim Bey,
türbinlerin COE dediğimiz yani cost of energy
the cost of energy factor of the turbines is being attempted to be decreased, and therefore we had to take into consideration the production centers which are more affordable. China and India were among them,
dünyadaki
and
en büyük burada bize bir şekilde zorluk çıkaran ve teknolojilerimizin her
one of the biggest challenges that we had
ihale sistemi
was the tender systems, because in the tender systems you have to maintain your quality as much as possible.
ve diğer taraftan
On the other hand, you also need to enlarge the size of the turbines, and then the pandemic and the Ukraine crisis hit us.
ham madde fiyatları
That meant increased raw material prices. Before 2019,
bir ton çelik
1 ton steel
normalde 500
was around 500 to 600 euros,
dönemlerde
and at the peak levels
neredeyse 2500
it was more than 2,800 euros.
dönemler bile oldu. Ve tabii ki bunu
And
dengelemek ve bu maliyetleri bir şekilde
balancing
ürünlerin
it
adına uğraşırken bir de üzerine
meant
daha
a challenge, and then the shipment prices significantly increased. Then
buradaki tedarik zincirini tekrar göz önünden
the supply chain here had to be reviewed again, and the risk had to be decreased as much as possible. And the most important factor,
avantajına dönüşen konu
which turned into an advantage for Turkey,
Avrupa Birliği'nde savaş sonrası açıklanan ciddi rakamlar.
were the significant numbers
Özellikle,
released in Europe.
yenilenebilir enerjideki şu anda
Europe's renewable energy
yenilenebilir enerjiden karşı
target
Almanya bunu 2030'da
is 80% by 2030, which is now 40%. And it means,
2023'ten itibaren
starting from
yaklaşık ortalama
2023,
her sene 10
every year
yeni bir kapasite çıkar.
a new capacity of 10 gigabytes will be released. So this is quite a big number. And in Europe,
enerjinin maliyetini düşürmek adına
in order to decrease the cost of energy factor, the large markets had to be addressed. Therefore, being in a production center which is as close as possible is making great sense. On the other hand, you were speaking about the carbon factor, and this is very important as well. There are also competitor countries such as Spain, Portugal, Poland, and the countries like Poland and Portugal are not very expensive as compared to Turkey. They are able to compete with us. Northern Europe, Germany might be more expensive in terms of the labor prices, but the most important thing here is that we compete with the South America countries. And until yesterday, that was not a problem. Now it is a problem because the interest rate is being increased. The funding was not a big problem up until now, but it will be a big problem in the future. And the volume is very important because we said that as the companies in Turkey, we need 3 gigawatts installed power per year. We looked at our production, like the blade factory and the generator, and in order to sustain the production facilities here, we needed a certain volume, which is around 500 or 600 megawatts. And in order to sustain it, you require 3 gigawatts. We have another company as well, and I'm telling you with a rough calculation. And on the other hand, the suppliers also probably said the same about the capacities, and the most important factor in the supply chain from the global perspective were the managers of this geography. We were, of course, always siding with Turkey, but from the global perspective, while deciding the production center, the most important factor is the cost. Of course, quality is indispensable. You have your certificates, you have your accreditations, but the cost right now is indispensable to us because at the global level we're competing, and kilowatt hour costs are predominant in this sector. And I would like to show you the production centers in Europe. We have the blade tower and generators produced in Turkey already, and our supply chain in Turkey. In the last 5 years, with the ministry support, we have more than 250 suppliers in Turkey already, and as an Ercon, we are supplying our components from those 250 companies. You can see we have suppliers from many cities. We are mostly based in Izmir, and we're producing main components and sub-components, and we're working hard to further expand them. But in terms of the depth of the production, we have to think twice whether or not we would like to produce another component. And for the funding, there is a Hermes package offered by the Germans. In this case, you may not be able to enter the Hermes package. We would like to have our investors locally and include it in Hermes as much as possible. So it is a very fine line. So even starting to produce something takes 1 year at least. So I'm talking about an existing product because the accreditation takes 1 year at least, and if there is no certificate, it will take even longer. The most important subject here is that we would like to have a predictability of 5 years at minimum while making a decision for investment volume and predictability, because without those two,
kendi şirketlerimiz içerisinde
as the industrialists,
ya da rekabet olan diğer ülkelerle beraber elimiz boş gidiyor.
we are empty-handed, or we start with a minus. And along with that,
Şu anda halihazırda işte yine Ukrayna
right now, after the crisis between Ukraine and Russia, there have been many pleasing announcements from the ministry with respect to unlicensed production or the production for self-consumption. We have always taken them seriously because this is the ideology here. It has to be consumed where it is produced, and that is the starting point. And you have to take employment there, and the ministry is a client of ours. We will install a project in Silivri with Potash. Also in Boğaziçi University, Kilyos campus, we have another turbine, and it is working along with Kandilli Observatory, and it is the very first campus that is supplying energy through wind turbines, and we have also started licensed projects for our industry. And conventionally, we have been working with Hürrich Group, Polat Energy, and other energy companies, and we have conducted some licensed projects with them. That is our focus. And the other large one is the one that we signed a few weeks ago, and hopefully we'll start the construction in 2024, which will be 1,000 megawatts totally. So YEKA, self-consumption, and other things raised by the ministry, we have always been very flexible as a company, and we took our steps in accordance with all the obligations that you have set for us, but we would like to demand things as well, because there are significant investments. YEKA is really great. It is perfect for all the investments, but from now on we would like to see predictability and sustainability, and we need 3,000 megawatts being installed every year in order to compete with Europe, because I said 10 gigawatts will be released in Germany every year. So this is highly necessary. They are really vital for Turkey, and I kindly ask you to raise this to the relevant authorities, as not the moderator but as the Deputy General Director in the ministry. Hopefully you will come with great surprises in this regard very soon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Arif Bey. We started at 4 p.m. We normally had 1.5 hours. It is 5:30 p.m. now. Of course, we have the right to delay because it's Turkish model. All the other sessions were also delayed. So hopefully we will finish in half an hour. I would like to hear your opinions about the legislation. I think I will give you each 5 minutes. Go ahead, Levent Bey. Thank you, General Director. Esteemed participants, this has been a long 3 days, tiring yet very entertaining. Izmir has a great place in my heart. I was graduated from Dokuzeli University. I spent 17 to 18 years, and I didn't think of leaving Izmir. Then Vestas was established. Murat Bey was the first general manager of Vestas. I met him when I went to Istanbul. The first thing in my mind, our office was in Maslak, and I thought I cannot stay here as a citizen of Izmir. That
Ama bir
was
şekilde
what I had in my mind,
2008
but
yılından beri
I've been
Vestas'ın
working as a
çalışanı
Vestas employee since
sektöründeyim,
2008,
Vestas'ın bir çalışanıyım. Ama öncesi
and
var.
there is also a
24
history.
yaşında olan arkadaş varsa, çünkü
If there is anyone who
okulu
is 24 years
gelen
old,
arkadaşlar olduğu
I heard
söylendi.
that we have some
24 yaşında
students who
ben
skipped
dağlara
school.
sırtımda direkt
I was actually moving
bunları
poles
anlatıyorum her
to
oturumda,
the
her karşılaştığım
mountains
zaman anlatıyorum çünkü
on
bunlar da
my
gurur duyuyor
back.
yaptığımız işten.
So
Çok değerli bir iş için.
that was an effort that I put
Ülkenin ihtiyacı,
for
dünyanın
the
ihtiyacı.
green energy. That was the
Gururla
need of the
anlatabileceğimiz
country and the world, and that was something we were very proud of.
ve geldiğimiz noktada
And
da
at this very
işte
point,
yaşadığımız sıkıntılar
the problems that we're
çok
experiencing
acayip bir ivmelenmenin içine soktu.
has put the world into a very different momentum.
Vestas'tan kısaca
And I
bahsedeceğim ama
will
çok
tell you
fazla
shortly
teknik
about
detaya
Vestas,
girmek
but I don't
istemiyorum.
want to give you
Çünkü
too much
hepiniz
details
internet
because you're all
kullanıyorsunuz,
experts of
hepiniz
internet,
bilgiye çok
and you all
rahat
can access the information very easily,
bizden daha hızlı
much faster than us.
Vestas,
And Vestas
sektörün en büyük firması.
is the largest company
160
in the
megawatt
industry.
kurulucu var.
It has 160
89
megawatt
ülkede faaliyet gösteriyor.
installed power. It is
39
operating in
ülke
89
götüren,
countries,
pazarı kuran,
and it has
ilk
taken the first turbine
ceremesini çeken
to
firma.
39 countries for the first
30
time.
bine yakın
We have
çalışanımız var.
nearly 30,000
2021
employees,
kapanış rakamlarına
as
göre 15.6 milyar
according to
euro
2021
yapan bir firma.
figures. The turnover was 15.6 billion
Çok büyük.
euros. This is really great.
Ama bir taraftan da bugün açıklanan
And
çeyrek
today,
sonuçlarımız var.
our
Taze
quarterly
taze.
results have been
Siz yorulmadan ben size aktarayım.
explained.
Eksi 3.2 İBIT.
It is
Biz
minus 2.3
bu
EBIT
senede
last
yıl sonu
quarter,
hedefimiz
and
eksi 5'te
our
bırakmak.
end of year target is
16
minus
milyar
5.
euro,
So
18
we
milyon
have
euro.
16 billion euros to 18 billion euros of income, and we are yet
Bu sadece bizim için
incurring a loss. And it doesn't only apply to us, this applies to all of us.
bu pandemiden sonra yaşadığımız Ukrayna Savaşı ile beraber gelen
What we
hatta
have
yardım
experienced
öncesi
after
Süveyş
the
kanalını
pandemic
kapatan değerli gemi kaptanı
and
sektöre
Ukrainian
çok güzel bir
crisis
bir ayar verdi.
and the
Gerçekten
captain
ciddi
who
anlamda sıkıntı yaşanan bir sektör haline.
blocked Suez
Karlılık
Canal
olmadığı bir sektör
actually
haline geldi.
showed us
Sürdürülebilirlik
something very different. Sustainability is sustainability to all of us, and everything we have discussed so far is really great. Capacity is great, but in order to do that, we need the turbine suppliers who have a good funding, and we require companies who can do it, and we require funding. The technical aspect is the technical equipment. You may try it once, 3 times or 5 times, and you may fail. You can still achieve something, but we don't really have this as a country. We don't have the time. We don't have a luxury of losing time. And I would like to save some time and tell you everything at once, in addition to legislation. Yekten model was very successful. It is $7.3 and 2.1, which was 9.4 cents, and there was a very clear process. The applicant was getting this incentive by the end of 2021. It was extended for another 6 months, and we were able to start the blade and generator factories, the tower equipments, and we tried to create an ecosystem here. In being in Izmir is always positive. I like speaking positively, but there is also the other side of the medal. The generator factory manufactured for 6 months, and it has been not operational for 2 years. And if there is no sustainability, regardless of the ecosystem, then there is a question mark. Between 2017 and 2021, 3 YEKA-RES tenders were put out. In the first one, there were very tight conditions. In the second one, they were slightly lighter. In the third one, it was broken to 20 companies. And the first one was 4,000, and the next one was 850 megawatts. Over the last 2 days, we have been discussing
Bizim Almanya gibi
That's-
şebekeye 60.000 megawatt bağlama lüksümüzün olmadığı,
We don't have a luxury of connecting 60,000 megawatts to the
enerji
network
altyapısı,
because
enerjiyi dağıtıp alabileceğimiz bir altyapı
we
olmadığı
don't
için
have an infrastructure. That's why the capacity increase can be done
buradaki mesajı
through
tam olarak anlayamadım.
storage. I didn't really quite understand the message here. YECA
Doğru ve başarılı bir yöntem.
is a right and successful
Ama
method.
YECA'daki
It's possible to do YECA, but
nasıl ihale ettiğiniz, hangi şartlarda,
how you
hangi
tender
finansmanla ihale
it
ettiğiniz,
and
varacağınız sonuç çok
the funding and the result to be obtained is highly
250
important.
megawatt YECA şu anda
2,850 megawatt YECA, and there is nothing from them over the last 5 years.
Türbin yapmakla övünen bir firma.
We are a company who is taking pride
Ben ilk
in
Alaçatı'da türbine
constructing
çıktığım zaman
turbines.
V44 modeli var.
When I
Alaçatı'da hala
first
görürsünüz,
climbed
Alaçatı'da devredilmiş 25 seneden fazla oldu.
the turbine in Alaçatı
V44'ün
25
tepesine
years
çıktığımızda aşağıda
ago,
insanlar karınca gibi görünürdü.
the people used to look
Şimdi
like
yeni
ants
yeni modellere çıktığımızda
from the
insanlar
tower. In the new model, you
Hatta
can't even
bulutun
see
üzerinde
the
olduğumuz
people.
fotoğraflarımız
There
var.
are even some photos in which we are
Çok
above
farklı bir
the
yere,
cloud.
en büyük
So it
modelimiz
has
karasal
evolved
model
to a very different place. We have launched our newest model,
sıkıntı da oldu
and
zaman
there is also this problem within the
Birden
time.
türbin büyütme konusu
All
gündeme
of a
geldi.
sudden,
Çünkü ihaleler
the turbines were expanded because the tenders were released accordingly. Some high capacity
mecburen
turbines, and there were field problems in some of the places. So it was the purpose to gain some space, and for that reason, turbine expansion came to the ecosystem, and there have been many road accidents on this route because it's not very easy. When you increase the rated power from 45 meters and expanding the blade by 10 meters is not so easy. That's why there were very significant quality damages. All the companies are listed in the stock exchange, and we're now talking about billions of dollars of loss. And what is our advantage as Vestas? We have a very strong offshore pillar, V236 15 megawatt turbine. It is very giant. I personally would like to see by myself. I will go there and climb. It is a very different one. Will that come to the onshore? No, it will not. But when V90 was launched, we said the bigger ones cannot be created. What have we said so far? We said the big turbines are good, but they are not. We have a very big ecosystem here, very big tenders, and those tenders cannot be won easily. So we have to be very meticulous there, and no one can really take the quality risk because the loss will be very high. We have an advantage. The turbines from offshore, you may think of it like Formula One. The companies first test their products in Formula One, and we have our experience, and it is evolved version of the offshore turbines. But when you look at it in these ecosystem, not everyone has an offshore turbine to test it. It is not very easy to go up to those powers. If you haven't seen before, you should go and stand next to a turbine, and you will find that it is very risky and the cost is very high. Changing the ecosystem and changing the production sites has been the case in many places, and Vestas is also considering it. Also, there have been problems due to transportation being close to the production site. So that is in the foreground for all of us because cost is very important now. When V236 was first launched, we were very proud. In Poland, we undertook a 1,500 megawatt project, and the first nacelle facility was constructed in Poland. The second one was constructed in Italy because of that capacity in the Mediterranean region. And we say that 5,000 megawatt and 10,000 megawatt, hearing them is very nice, but realizing them is much more important. You may disclose 1,000 megawatt every year, but in order to construct it, you have to do your best. And I entered many tenders back in the past, and a tender means to us, you will give your quote, you will complete the job, and you will get your payment. It has to be completed first, and those capacities must be feasible as soon as possible. And in our report, we have also disclosed today the price increase in terms of the unit is now 30% as compared to the last year. So the cost is now very high. There is a cost inflation. On the other hand, when you look at the report of the states to fight inflation, they say they will launch 165,000 megawatts in 10 years. Germany is giving an incentive of 600 million euros. So we cannot even follow the numbers disclosed. So even if 10% comes through, there is a very large capacity out there. And this means an inflation in the demand. The market might be expected to evolve into a seller market, and it's very important to see where we will be positioned. We all have our duties here, and we have to make sure that those capacities are brought to this country, and for that we need infrastructure, we need the capacities to be launched, and we have to decide, and that should not change. It should not change from today to the other day. And the amendments in the legislation is the most dangerous thing ever. So we have our justification, but the problem is totally different. Then there are turbines that have been already ordered, and the business case has been created accordingly. Vestas
hem bu coğrafyayı hem başka coğrafyaları dünyanın her tarafını detaylı olarak inceliyor.
Meticulously reviews all parts of the countries, and we have more than 135,000 turbines, and we're constantly collecting data from them. We are working in every field, but in the end we have the problem of funding. Arif Bey also mentioned we are benefiting from Hermes support and other supports. I can tell you, you can do taxi driving using a Ferrari, but that will not be profitable. It will be a voluntary thing. Go ahead, please. That's why we should not forget about the funding during the investments to be made, and we should know how the funding will be done and which supports will be granted at a local level. Maybe I should finish here. I can say some more things if you have the time later on.
ufak düzeltmeler tam da sizin dediğiniz sebeple
For
biz
the reason you
YYK'ya
mentioned,
ön lisans yarışmalarına yarışma diyoruz, ihale demiyoruz.
we're calling
İngilizcesi aynı
the
olabilir.
preliminary license a competition, not a tender,
İhale mantığına da uygun.
because it doesn't fit the understanding of tenders.
Yani onun için bunlar adı ihale.
That's why they're not called
Mantığı da o
tender.
öyle kuruluyor. Gene de sabır zamanla kazanmak için
In order to save time, I don't want to say too much, but
18'de imzalandı.
YECAs were signed in 2018 officially. No, it was in
18 Şubat'ta
yes, it was in February 2018, 4 years ago.
17 imza 18.
Sözleşme
The competition was in 2017.
hareket bizim tarihleri başlattığımız kronometreyi bastığımız tarih
We
günün hatırlamıyorum.
started, I don't remember the exact date, but it was February 2018.
Yani 4 sene.
So that means 4 years.
2019.
Res 2 2019.
Ben yanlış hatırlıyorum. 2020.
Yes, that was 2020. That means 2 years only. The environmental impact assessment is almost complete, and maybe
en erken işletmeye girecek projeler olur.
it will be commissioned at the earliest possible, and it is 1000 megawatts totally.
Arge merkezi.
So they are launching a factory and R&D center, so they all have to be tackled one by one. And in Res 1,
Tabii ki hani yekleme.
Levent Bey was
O
right.
zamanki konjonktürle yani
With the
Serdar
conjuncture back
bugünün
then,
aklıyla tarihi yargılarsanız yani
if
bugünün
you
aklıyla
judge
bugünkü
the
konjonktürü
history
şekilde
with your ideas from
2018,
today,
2017'nin gerçek.
if
2017'ne
you
kadar
are
mutluyuz.
to
Yekten vardı 7.3.
I mean, back in 2017, we had Yektam and no one was complaining about anything. Everyone was very much pleased with Yeka and Yektam, but many things have changed in 5 years. So there will be initial projects, and we have to be taking that into consideration with that idea.
Almanya'da prosedür nedir? Ne olur Allah rızası için bir anlatın bize dedik.
We
Hep şununla çıktılar.
asked them to tell us about the procedure in Germany. We said, tell us about the procedure in Hamburg in our most recent visit to Hamburg.
Başvuru veya niyet bazından bir yatırımcının rüzgar santral yapmaya niyetlenmesiyle lisans alması arasında geçen ortalama
The average time between the intention to construct the turbine and the licensing is 7 years. It actually depends on the state. We said, how do you take this average? One may take in 1.5 years, and the other one might take it in 15 years, but they said it is between 6 and 8 years. The earliest is 6 years, and the latest is 8 years. So we're not in a very bad position. There are, of course, procedures, but none of them is unnecessary. Maybe the time spent in Turkey and Germany might be different, and the time that we spend is not very much different. And for Yeka, less time was spent. Res 2 will break a record. It will be commissioned in under 3 years. There is another session after, as I know we have been already delayed too much. Could you tell us about the legislation? We have been talking about capacity increase and unlicensed, but you may tell about your opinions. It is already 6 o'clock, and we don't want to push our audience. I would like to tell you about the merits. We've been talking about the procedures so far, and this relates to YECAS as well. As you know, we've been talking about the costs and the factories and which are the companies that make the most money. The technology companies, right? And the technology companies, What is the reason for them making the highest amount of money? Is it because they are producing the technology, or is it because they are developing the technology? Because, of course, because they are developing the technology. And the World Economic Forum publishes the competitiveness index, and there are 10 headlines in the index. There is the R&D, entrepreneurship, co-creation, and all of them are about know-how and intellectual rights. So the one who is followed makes the money, not the one who follows. For years, this country was an assembly country. Between 1980 and 2000, it was a licensed production country, and as of 2000, we have been designing. We have to be knowledgeable with them. So, if you bring together the solutions of funding and the factories and the resources of this country, along with the know-how and the resources and the ecosystem in this country, the world is now talking about co-creation. It means co-development. And this means developing technological products, and when the nasal factory becomes a world brand, it will set the game by itself. We have to have our self-confidence. The existing ones can still produce their products, but this country has the human resources to produce its own products in every field, and I'm telling you this as a professor, as a lecturer, and for that reason I also said that in the General Directorate of Energy Affairs, and the policy has to be improved. I said I don't want to give too much details. It was disclosed differently at the beginning, and we are expecting some amendments in the legislation accordingly. Thank you very much for your attention.
Biz teşekkür ederiz hocam. Sağ olun.
Thank you, Professor.
Ebru Hanım, son sözleriniz
Ebru Hanım,
Türkiye'de
final words
altyapısına dair.
about the infrastructure of wind energy legislation, including YK. You may speak as if I am not here.
Ne yapılmalı?
What should be done?
Diğerlerde tabii. Yani lisanssız belki çok rüzgar tarafını da çok ilgilendirmiyor gibi görünüyor ama depolama ve kapasite artışları.
For the storage and capacity increases, maybe you would like to say something. Thank you very much. Firstly,
Sebahattin Bey,
I
çok değerli çalışma arkadaşlarına teşekkür
would
ederim.
like to thank Sebahattin Bey and his colleagues. They have been working on the legislation for years, and they have brought the sector to this point from ground zero, and they worked very hard for this, and there is a success here. Right now, the installed power is around 12 gigawatts, and this has been realized in a very short term. And this is a success story, and we should remember it. And how can we add more? How can we add more quickly? I think this is what the question relates to. And there are two main criteria here. One is about the volume. The project stock has to come permanently, and it has to be predictable in the long run. It will bring more investment, more interest in Turkey, and it will further increase the momentum. This is highly important. Secondly, the tariffs must be fundable so that those projects will be real ones.
Farklı mekanizmalar olabilir ama ben
There
her
might
zaman
be
bu sürekli
different
taraftarıyım.
mechanisms,
Çok
but
farklı
I
değişik
always
mekanizmalardan ziyade bir iki mekanizmanın
go
olması
for
faydalı
simplicity.
olabilir, daha kolay
Maybe
anlaşılabilir
there could be
veya
just a
hayata
few
geçirilebilir olması
mechanisms
açısından.
so that they will be more
Açık eksiltme
feasible.
ve yarışma yaklaşımları
The
bazen
competition
işin doğası
approach
gereği düşük fiyatlar ortaya çıkarabiliyor.
may
Bazı
result
projelerin
in
finansmanına zora sokabiliyor.
low
Dolayısıyla
prices,
onlardan
and it
ziyade
may bring
alternatif
challenges for funding of
metotlar,
some
mekanizmalar
projects.
enteresan olabilir.
So
Fiyatı
alternative
daha
mechanisms could be
finanse
used
edilebilir seviyede tutmak için.
in order
Bir
to
de son
keep
sorun içinde vardı
the
sanıyorum. Kapasite
funding
artışları
level at
özellikle
a more
kısa,
feasible
orta vadede çok enteresan görünüyor bence. Çünkü
place,
mevcut
and capacity
sahaların
increase is very
kapasitelerinin
interesting in the
artışından bahsediyoruz.
midterm,
Bu sahaların hepsinde
because
altyapılar
in all
mevcut.
those fields
Burada bir imkan
there is
var.
an
Yani milli
infrastructure and there is
servetimizin, bu yapılmış
a
yatırımların daha iyi değerlendirilmesi
possibility
adına
here.
bu kapasite artışlarının hızlı bir şekilde yapılması bence ülkemiz açısından
So
son
the
derece
capacity increase should be made very quickly, and this is highly important for our country.
Geliştirerek sorayım. Diğerlerine de bir şey, cevap verebilirsiniz tabii ki ama.
You can also answer the other questions.
Bundan sonra konuşmacılara daha bir depolama başvuruları var ya güncel.
Well, the storage applications,
Bunlar diğer yöntemleri nasıl etkiler?
and how will they affect
Şimdi,
the other methods?
Depolama konusu açıkçası
Storage
yani sektörde özellikle Türkiye'de işte 2 aydır 3 aydır konuşulan bir konu.
has been very popular subject in our country for the last few months, and
Bu etkinlikte
in this conference that was one of the biggest surprises.
veya çıkacak olması işte
The regulations will be released very soon, and the minister also spoke about it.
herkesin tabii ki bir fikri var.
Everyone has an idea,
Neticede baktığımızda
and when we look at the result, nobody really knows what will happen. So
durum var şu anda.
things will be
Tabii
clear as we go.
ya bu depolama konusu niye bu kadar Türkiye'de önemli? Çünkü diğer
I
ülkelere baktığımızda
I'm thinking why the storage is so important, because, for example, Ireland has a very poor network and they need a storage, and this is not a very widespread concept in the other countries. So in order to have an optimum mechanism, this could be used, but this comes with a cost for the investor. The criteria are not clear as for the technology and the connection and the size and the cost. When we calculate them, 1 megawatt RES is $1.5 million.
Bunu kurduğunda yatırımcı pazara satacak bu fiyatı.
Secondly,
Bunun bir taban fiyatı var.
there
Bunu
must
nasıl
be
finanse edecek? Çünkü ikinci konu
a
zaten
set price,
eğer bir taban fiyatı
because
yoksa,
if there is no
taban
set
fiyatı yoksa
price,
zaten onun finans imkanı çok daha zor.
the
Türkiye'de şu anda
financing
finans,
will be more
zaten
difficult,
zor.
and
O açıdan yani
for that reason,
bunun sektöre ne kadar bir faydası olacak? Tabii yatırımcı şu açıdan
how much will that be beneficial to the industry? The investors think they can get a production license this way, and then they will be able to expand their existing facility or start a new one. But what is the added value? The technical criteria are not clear, so we don't exactly know. But it is important in one sense. We now need a route map, especially we need the capacity to come and the volume to increase. That can be done through YECA or storage or a competition. So 3 things matter. First, volume, and second one is the price, as you said as well. YECA was made and there are very few
şartlar
prices
şartlara çok daha
and
zorlaştı.
the
Bence
conditions are
kriterleri ve
more
yarışma
difficult
kriterlerini
now.
belirlerken
While
buradaki
setting the criteria
ince dokuyup
for
ve
the competition,
yatırımcının
we should
böyle
be very
bir
meticulous,
rekabet
and
içerisinde olmayacak fiyatları vermemesini
we
engellememiz.
have to make
Bunu
sure
zaten defalarca yaşadık.
that the
İKA'da da yaşadık.
investors
Diğer
do
lisans
not
yarışmalarında
give
yaşadık. Ve
such
burada
low
çok
prices,
büyük
and
zamanlar kaybediyoruz.
we're
Çok
losing
uzun zamanlar
significant
kaybediyoruz
time
ve sonuçlara
here.
baktığımızda ne kadar elde ediyoruz
And as
ve
for
ne
the
kadar
results,
inşasını yaptığımız projeler var. Yani tabii ki
how many
biraz
projects are
baktığımızda
being
Türkiye çok
constructed?
büyük bir
Well,
yol aldı.
today
Yalnız
Turkey
çok daha
has
ileride
covered a
olabilir-
significant
olabilirdi.
path,
O yüzden
but we could have
biz
been
fiyat
much
ve buradaki kriterlerin
more better. The
Üçüncüsü
second one is
çok
price and
önemli.
setting the criteria.
Mevzuatı
Third
belirlediğimiz
one,
zaman bu mevzuat en az genel prensipleriyle bir 5 yıl
while
böyle devam
setting the
Ondan
legislation,
sonra
we have to make
değişiklik
sure that
yapıyorsanız
it
yapalım yine.
continues this
Çünkü
way
durmadan
for
mevzuat değiştirmek. İşte
5
bu
years
tabii
at
ki,
least, because
başladı 2018'de, 2017'de.
when it is
Sonra
amended all the
işte
time,
yine lisans feed-in tarife bitti. Şimdi depolama geldi. Burada tabii ne olacak bilinmiyor.
the storage is now being discussed, and we will continue with the ECA the other day. So the changes and the variables here
açısından ve özellikle bizim gibi türbin üreticisi yönetime bir şeyler anlatma açısından çok fazla değişkenler var ve
there are too many variables for us, and the investors are having difficulty in understanding what's going on, and
mevzuatın yapılması ve bu mevzuat çerçevesinde de
the legislation has to be set,
böyle devam etmesi çok
and things must go that way for 5 years at minimum. Thank you very much.
Arif Bey, son olarak artık hem dinleyicilerimizin hem bizden sonraki
Let's hear your final words, Tarık Bey.
zorladık. Bizim mevzuat hakkında birkaç cümleyle
Can you say a few things about the legislation?
Öncelikle teşekkür ederim. Yani zaten çok
First
fazla
of all, thank you
konuştuk.
very much. There is not much to say actually. Everyone is still here and listening to us. Actually, everything is very nice, and we would like to make sure that they are even better. I would like to correct two things. We are not criticizing you because we said the same to the ministers. We are now an advanced country in terms of wind energy. We are in top 10, and we were in top 3 the last year in Europe in terms of the annual installed power. So we're now there, and we have to maintain that. And this is what we are trying to say. We are now here, and all the companies are here. There are more than 500,000 workers in the industry, and we have to keep it at that level. So take that as a positive critic. We are not doing so bad, and we can learn from the mistakes of the others. And second thing that I would like to correct, I want to make sure that it is true while calculating. The turbine producers are making 100% profitability in maintenance, but that is not the case. I wish that was true.
Büyük oranda kar ediyor diyelim.
Let's say they're making a good profit,
Özellikle burada biz gerçekten de
and
bütün üzerine ekleyecek hiçbir şey yok.
there isn't anything to add. It has to be predictable, and there must be a volume, and we have to create the volume as soon as possible. We have to see forward, and we have the capacity increase, and they have to be taken into consideration. They have to review it again, and it is highly important in the unlicensed market. The permissions could be given faster, and otherwise ECA storage and other tools that are required, for sure they are indispensable in order to prepare ourselves for the future, and in order to save tomorrow as well. We have to
devamlılığımız da
have the sustainability, and the best method to ensure it is the capacity increase and licensed and unlicensed markets. Thank you.
Ebru Hanım müsaade var mı? İki
Ebru Hanım,
soralım.
maybe we could take two
Salondan
questions.
sorunuz varsa soru alabiliriz.
If there is any question we can hear, could you please introduce yourself and say the addressee of your question? We're already late.
Varsa sorunuz alalım.
Hibrit için ayrıca bir online oturum yapacağız.
For the hybrid,
Günü kısa
we
tutacağız,
will
daha
have
fazla
another
yormamak için
online
ama çıkacağız. O yüzden rahat
meeting.
Tamam, soruları alabiliriz o zaman. En önden başlayalım.
Yes, we can now receive the questions.
Teşekkürler Genel Müdürüm. Polat Enerji'den.
Thank you.
Ebru Hanım,
I'm joining
Polat
from
Hocam'a soru
Polat Energy. My question is for
Öncelikle bu yerli
Ebru.
türbinle ilgili gelişmeleri görmek çok
It
sevindirici kendi
is
adıma.
really
Bizim
great
de
to
Polat
see the
Enerji
developments
yaklaşık
regarding
750 megawatt,
the turbines.
kurulu
We have
gücümüzün tamamı Enercon
750
türbin modeli.
megawatt
Arif Bey
installed
buradan
power, and all
gördüğünüz
of them are
soruyorum ama,
Enercon.
Biz
I'm asking this
sahalarımızda
question
yerli türbini
with
de tabii
Arif
ki
Bey here.
değerlendirmek isteriz.
Of course, we would like to use the domestic turbines as well, and we also discussed it with Serdar Bey in Hamburg. All of our turbines are without gearbox, and do you have anything that you do for direct drive as well? Thank you. In my presentation, I was emphasizing the energy directorate, and we have the design directorate, system engineering directorate. We have taken the design from White, and we don't want to suffice with that, and within the upcoming time it might be direct drive or offshore, so we're planning to move on to them as well. And next year we will do direct drive and then offshore. There is no such promise from our side. However, we can do that, and it depends on the need of the Ministry of Energy and their request. We were notified that there is a nearly 4 gigawatt requirement in our country. That's why we are mission companies, and that means whatever technology is required, we are developing that one. We are not intending to make money. As I always say, whoever has the technology makes the money. The funding will be coming from there, and it is not only about the investment in China or shifting, so we're now playing our own game. Whatever the need from the ministries, we will develop the turbines accordingly. I should also say we would like to make export. We would like to export them. Any other question?
Yok herhalde.
Well, looks like there is no other question. Thank you very much for staying so late with us,
Konuşmacılarımıza çok değerli katkılarını
and
çok teşekkür ediyoruz.
we would like to thank our participants for their contributions. Thank you very much. Have a good night.